Verity Castellane had never slapped anyone in her 32 years of meticulously controlled existence. But watching Kong Jae-sung mock the young waiter who'd accidentally spilled wine near his table, watching him humiliate the trembling kid in front of 300 of San Francisco's elite, something inside her finally snapped. Her hand connected with Jae-sung's face before her brain caught up with her body. The crack echoed through the Fairmont's grand ballroom like a gunshot, silencing the orchestra mid-note and freezing every conversation simultaneously. Verity watched a red handprint bloom across the cheek of one of the city's most powerful men. Patriarch of the Kong family, rumored head of the Korean Mafia's West Coast operations, a man people whispered about in fearful reverence. "How dare you?" Verity said, her voice shaking but clear. "He's 19 years old. He made a mistake. And you treated him like garbage in front of everyone." Jae-sung touched his face, his expression shifting from shock to something darker, dangerous. Around them, the crowd backed away instinctively, creating a circle of space as if violence might be contagious. "Do you know who I am?" His voice was quiet, heavily accented, terrifying in its calmness. "I know exactly who you are. Everyone here knows." Verity was distantly aware she was probably about to die. Or disappear. Or whatever happened to people who struck Korean mafia bosses. "But I don't care. That boy didn't deserve your cruelty." "Verity." Her colleague Dr. Ansel Thorne grabbed her arm, his face pale. "Stop talking. Right now." But Verity couldn't stop. Years of watching powerful people abuse servers, belittle staff, treat service workers as invisible. It had been building like pressure in her chest. Someone needs to tell you that money and power don't give you the right to destroy people's dignity. That kid is probably working 3 jobs to pay for college. He doesn't deserve to be humiliated because you're too important to show basic human decency. Jae-sung's eyes narrowed. Security was already moving toward her. Large men with earpieces and the kind of stillness that suggested extensive violence training. "Wait!" A different voice cut through the tension. A younger man pushed through the crowd, late 30s, devastatingly handsome in a way that made Jae-sung's harsh features look refined by comparison. He had the same sharp cheekbones, the same dark eyes, but where the father's expression held cruelty, the son's held something else, calculation, and perhaps grudging respect. "Father," the man said in Korean, then switched to English. "Let me handle this." Jae-sung looked between his son and Verity, then smiled. A terrible expression that made Verity's stomach drop. "By all means, Silas. Handle the woman who just assaulted me in front of the entire city." The son, Silas, took Verity's elbow with surprising gentleness. "Come with me, now, before my father changes his mind about letting you leave vertical." Verity let herself be guided toward the exit, her heart hammering, her hand still stinging from impact. Through the crowd, she caught one last glimpse of Jae-sung watching her with those cold, calculating eyes. She'd just made an enemy of one of the most dangerous men in California. And somehow his son was smiling. Have you ever defended a stranger when everyone else looked away, knowing it might cost you everything? Share your moment of reckless courage below. Silas Kong steered Verity through a service corridor and into a private room overlooking the bay. Only when the door closed did he release her arm and start laughing. Deep, genuine laughter that seemed completely at odds with the tension of moments before. "I'm sorry," he managed, wiping his eyes. "But the look on my father's face. I don't think anyone's touched him without permission in 30 years. Verity's adrenaline was crashing, leaving her shaky and confused. "This is funny to you? Your father's going to kill me." "Probably not kill. Disappear, maybe. Ruin professionally, definitely." Silas's smile faded. "Unless I convince him you're more valuable alive." Which brings me to my question. Dr. Verity Castellane, neuroscientist specializing in Alzheimer's research, why did you risk your life for a waiter you don't know? The fact that he knew her name and specialty shouldn't have surprised her. The Kangs knew everything about everyone, but it still sent ice down her spine. "Because it was the right thing to do," Verity said simply. "Your father was cruel. Someone needed to stop him. Noble. Stupid, but noble." Silas moved to the window, his expensive suit catching the city lights. Let me tell you what's going to happen. My father will have you investigated by morning. Every detail of your life examined, every pressure point identified. Then he'll decide how to make you pay for the embarrassment. So why are you helping me? Who says I'm helping? Silas turned to face her. Maybe I'm just curious about someone brave enough or foolish enough to slap a crime lord over a 19-year-old waiter. Verity studied him. Silas Kong was supposedly his father's heir apparent, being groomed to take over the family's legitimate business empire and its less legitimate operations. But something in his eyes suggested he wasn't entirely his father's son. The waiter's name is Owen, Verity said quietly. He's pre-med at UCSF. Works 4 jobs to pay tuition because his family can't help. He's brilliant, kind, and terrified of losing this catering gig because it pays the best. Your father's humiliation could have gotten him fired. How do you know all that? Because I talk to people. Servers, janitors, security guards. The invisible people your family treats like furniture. Verity's voice hardened. I grew up working class. My mother cleaned houses for families like yours. So yes, I defended Owen. And I'd do it again. Silas was quiet for a long moment. My father will destroy you for this. Your research funding, your university position, your reputation. He has that power. I know. And you still don't regret it? No. Something shifted in Silas's expression, respect, perhaps, or recognition. Dr. Castellane, I'm going to make you an offer. It's going to sound insane, but it might be the only way you survive what's coming. What kind of offer? My father has early-stage Alzheimer's. He doesn't know I know. I've been tracking his symptoms for 6 months. Memory lapses, personality changes, declining judgment. Silas's voice dropped. That scene tonight? The cruelty, the loss of control? That's not how he used to be. The disease is changing him. Verity's scientific mind immediately engaged despite her fear. Early-stage Alzheimer's can cause disinhibition, increased aggression. Exactly. And it's getting worse. Silas moved closer. Here's my offer. You treat my father. Privately, discreetly. Use your experimental protocols, whatever you need. In exchange, I protect you from his retaliation. That's not how Alzheimer's treatment works. I can't just. You published a paper 8 months ago about a novel gene therapy approach. Early trials showing promise. Silas pulled out his phone, showing her own research abstract. My father qualifies for your criteria, and I have resources your university could never provide. Why would you want to help him? If the disease is making him worse. Because he's still my father. Because the organization needs him stable, not deteriorating into paranoid violence. And because Silas hesitated. Because the man you slapped tonight wasn't the father I knew growing up. The disease is taking him, and I want him back. Verity's mind raced. This was ethically complicated, professionally dangerous, and possibly illegal. Treating a crime lord with experimental gene therapy in exchange for protection from his own retaliation? If I say no, then you leave tonight and take your chances with his anger. Based on my father's history, I'd give you 48 hours before your life starts falling apart. Silas's expression was sympathetic but firm. I'm offering you a way to survive this with your career intact. Possibly even advance your research with funding and resources you couldn't access otherwise. And all I have to do is treat a man who terrifies me. A man who's dying and doesn't know it yet. A man whose disease is making him cruel. Silas extended his hand. Help me save him, Dr. Castellane, before the Alzheimer's destroys what's left of who he used to be. Verity stared at Silas's extended hand. Every instinct screamed that getting further involved with the Kong family was insane. But the scientist in her saw an opportunity, access to a patient, resources, the chance to actually test her theories outside the glacial pace of academic approval processes. I need guarantees, she said. Full medical autonomy. No interference with treatment protocols. And protection for Owen, the waiter. Your father can't retaliate against him. Done. Silas's handshake was firm. I'll have contracts drawn up by tomorrow. Confidential, ironclad. And your father? He needs to consent to treatment. He will. I'll convince him it's preventive care, executive health screening, cutting-edge longevity treatment. He's vain enough to believe he deserves the best. Silas's smile was grim. The hardest part will be keeping the diagnosis from him. If he knows he's losing his mind, he'll become more dangerous, Verity finished. Paranoid, possibly violent. It's common with Alzheimer's patients when they realize they're declining. Exactly. So this stays between us. My father thinks you're his personal physician. Nothing more. No one in the organization can know about his condition. Before Verity could respond, Silas's phone buzzed urgently. He glanced at it and his expression changed, from confident to something close to fear. We need to leave. Right now. What's wrong? My father just ordered security to detain you for assault. He's changed his mind about letting you walk away. Silas grabbed her arm, pulling her toward a service exit. I can override the order, but we need to get you out of the building first. They moved quickly through service corridors, Silas somehow knowing every turn, every camera blind spot. Behind them, Verity heard shouts, security closing in. The parking garage, Silas said urgently. My car. If we can get there. They rounded a corner and stopped short. Jae-sung stood blocking their path, flanked by 4 security guards. His face still bore the faint mark of Verity's slap, and his eyes held murder. Going somewhere, son? Jae-sung's voice was silk over razors. With the woman who assaulted me? Father, I was just lying, protecting her, betraying me. Jae-sung stepped closer, and Verity saw it. The confusion flickering behind his anger, the way his hand trembled slightly. Symptoms. The disease was progressing faster than Silas realized. You conspired against me, Jae-sung continued, his English slipping, accent thickening. My own son, with this woman. This. He struggled for the word, frustration crossing his face when it wouldn't come. The confusion made him angrier. You think I don't see? I see everything. Father, you're not well. The slap came so fast Verity barely saw it. Jae-sung struck his son across the face, the same cheek Verity had hit earlier, with enough force to snap Silas's head sideways. Don't you dare, Jae-sung hissed. I'm stronger than all of you. I'll bury you both. But his hands were shaking now, and Verity saw what Silas had been trying to tell her. This wasn't just cruelty. This was a brilliant, powerful man whose mind was betraying him, whose personality was fragmenting, whose fear of losing control was making him lash out at everyone, including the son trying to save him. Mr. Kong, Verity heard herself say, I'm a neurologist, and I think you need help. Jae-sung's attention snapped to Verity like a predator spotting movement. You think you can diagnose me? You, who assaulted me in front of my associates. I think you're scared, Verity said, her medical training overriding her fear. I think you've been having memory lapses, moments where words disappear or faces become unfamiliar. I think tonight's anger, the cruelty toward Owen, the paranoia about your son, isn't who you are. It's what the disease is making you become. The security guards shifted uncomfortably. Silas stood frozen, blood trickling from his split lip. There is no disease, Jae-sung said, but his voice wavered. I'm fine. I'm in complete control. Then why did you forget Ambassador Chen's name at last month's dinner? Silas spoke quietly, carefully. You've known him 20 years. Why did you accuse your accountant of embezzlement when the records showed no discrepancy? Why can't you remember what city we're in right now without checking? Jae-sung's face contorted, rage and fear warring visibly. San Francisco. We're in San Francisco. I know exactly where. He stopped, uncertainty flickering. This is the Fairmont Hotel, Verity said gently. In San Francisco. You came here for a charity gala. Do you remember? Of course I remember. But Jae-sung's eyes were panicked now, darting around as if the familiar ballroom corridor had become foreign territory. I'm not. I don't need. He swayed suddenly. Silas caught his father before he fell, and Verity saw the terror in the older man's eyes as he gripped his son's arm. "What's happening to me?" Jae-sung whispered. "Early-stage Alzheimer's," Verity said. "But it's treatable. I have protocols that can slow the progression, possibly reverse some symptoms. But I need your consent. I need you to trust me." "Trust the woman who slapped me?" "Trust the woman who's telling you the truth when everyone else is too afraid." Verity moved closer. "Your son has been trying to protect you, but the disease is progressing faster than he realized. If you don't get treatment soon, I'll lose everything." Jae-sung's voice cracked. "My mind, my organization, my power." "You'll lose yourself," Verity corrected. "But if you let me help, if you start treatment now, we might save who you are." For a long moment, Jae-sung stared at her. Then he straightened, pride reasserting itself even as his hands still trembled. "Very well, Dr. Castellane. You may proceed with your treatment." His eyes hardened. "But if you fail, if you tell anyone about my condition, I will destroy you and everyone you love. Do we understand each other?" "Perfectly. Good." Jae-sung turned to his son. "Take her to the medical facility. Start whatever protocols she requires. And Silas," his voice softened fractionally, "thank you for caring enough to betray me." Then he walked away, security following, leaving Verity and Silas alone in the corridor. "That," Silas said, wiping blood from his lip, "went better than expected. He hit you. He's hit me for less. The fact that he listened at all, that's because of you." Silas looked at her with something approaching awe. "You slapped a mafia boss and then diagnosed him in the same night. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or completely insane. Maybe both." Verity's legs were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "What have I just agreed to? To save my father's life. And possibly mine." Silas's expression grew serious. "Because there's something I didn't tell you about his condition." "What?" 3 months ago, he ordered a hit on someone he claimed betrayed him. Turned out the person was innocent. My father had false memories, paranoid delusions from the disease. We stopped it in time, but barely. Silas's voice dropped. "The Alzheimer's isn't just making him cruel. It's making him homicidal. And if we don't stop the progression soon, he's going to kill someone." Over the next 3 months, Verity established a treatment protocol in a private medical facility that Silas had built within the Kong family compound. State-of-the-art equipment, unlimited funding, and complete secrecy. She administered experimental gene therapy, monitored Jae-sung's cognitive function, and watched carefully for progression. The treatment was working. Slowly but measurably. Jae-sung's memory improved. His paranoia decreased. The cruel outbursts became less frequent. And as his mind cleared, he began to remember things, including the incident at the gala. "I treated that boy terribly," he said during one of their sessions, shame evident in his voice. "Owen, the waiter. I remember now, the cruelty, the humiliation. That wasn't me. Or it was, but it wasn't. The disease lowered your inhibitions," Verity explained. "Made you act on impulses you would normally control. You stopped me. With violence." Faint smile. "No one has dared strike me in decades. You probably saved that boy from worse. I was working myself into a rage. I might have had him fired, blacklisted. The slap shocked me back to myself, even briefly." Verity hadn't considered it that way. She'd acted on instinct, on anger. But perhaps that moment of shocking intervention had been exactly what Jae-sung needed. "How many others?" Jae-sung asked quietly. "How many people did I hurt while my mind was slipping?" "Your son has been protecting you, minimizing damage, reversing orders, cleaning up my messes while I deteriorated." Jae-sung's expression was pained. "I struck him that night. I remember that clearly now. My own son and I..." He couldn't finish. It was during their 4th month of treatment that Silas pulled Verity aside. His face grave. "We have a problem. A serious one." He showed her security footage from 3 months ago, before treatment began. Jae-sung in his office, paranoid and confused, ordering the assassination of someone named Dominic Crane. a business rival who'd supposedly betrayed him. The hit was scheduled for next week, Silas said. I only just discovered the order. My father had hidden it, used channels I didn't monitor. The assassin is already in position. Verity felt cold. Can you stop it? I've been trying. But the assassin, Silas's voice was strained, is me. What? My father, in his paranoid state, ordered me to carry out the hit personally, as proof of loyalty of my worthiness as his heir. And Silas looked devastated. I agreed. I didn't question him. I thought he had good reason that Dominic had actually betrayed us. I didn't realize his mind was already fragmenting. So call it off. I can't. The organization is watching. Other families are watching. If I refuse now, it shows weakness. Makes my father look incompetent. Makes me look disloyal. Either way, we're vulnerable to rivals who'd love to exploit any crack in our armor. Verity's mind raced. Is Dominic Crane actually guilty of anything? No. I've investigated thoroughly. He's innocent. My father's accusation was pure paranoid delusion. False memories manufactured by the disease. Silas ran his hands through his hair. I'm scheduled to kill an innocent man in 6 days. And I can't find a way out without destroying everything we've built. There has to be another way. There isn't. I've looked at every angle. Silas met her eyes. Unless I can prove Dominic is innocent in a way my father would accept, in a way that saves face for the organization, then you have to go through with the assassination. Verity finished, horrified. Or I have to betray my father, expose his condition, and watch rival families tear apart everything he built. Silas's voice was hollow. Either way, someone dies. I just get to choose who. What would you sacrifice to save a life? Your honor, your loyalty, or someone else's future? Share your impossible choice in the comments. Verity spent 3 sleepless nights reviewing everything: medical records, security footage, Jae-sung's paranoid accusations against Dominic Crane. There had to be something, some thread she could pull that would unravel this nightmare. On the 4th night, she found it. The timeline's wrong, she told Silas, spreading documents across his desk. Your father accused Dominic of embezzling funds in February. But look at the cognitive tests I administered. February was when his episodic memory was most severely compromised. He wasn't remembering actual events. He was confabulating. Confabulating. Creating false memories to fill gaps. It's common in Alzheimer's patients. The brain invents plausible stories to explain missing information. Verity pulled up brain scans. See this degradation in the hippocampus? This is where episodic memories form. During February, your father's brain was literally incapable of accurately recording events. Anything he remembered from that period is suspect. So Dominic never betrayed him? More than that, I don't think they even met in February. Your father's appointment logs show no meetings with Crane. No calls, no emails, nothing. Verity's excitement built. The entire accusation is a false memory. Dominic is innocent because the betrayal never happened. Silas stared at the evidence, hope and despair warring on his face. This proves Dominic's innocent, but it also proves my father is mentally incompetent. If I present this to the organization, they'll see weakness. I know. Verity had already thought through this problem. But what if the evidence came from me? Not as your father's doctor, but as an outside expert reviewing financial records. How would that work? We stage a discovery. I'm brought in as an independent consultant to verify the embezzlement claims before the hit proceeds. I review the records, find inconsistencies, prove Dominic is innocent. Your father looks careful and thorough rather than paranoid. The organization sees wisdom, not weakness. And the fact that you're already treating him? No one knows that except us and your father. As far as the organization is concerned, I'm just a neuroscientist you hired for financial analysis expertise. Verity met his eyes. It's thin, but it might work. Silas was quiet for a long moment. Then, there's a problem. Someone already knows about the treatment. Verity's stomach dropped. Who? My father's second in command, Matthias Ree. He's been suspicious of my father's recent improvement. Yesterday he confronted me, asked why I was protecting a neurologist, why my father was seeing doctors so frequently. Silas's expression was grim. I denied everything, but Matthias isn't stupid. If he's already investigating. The door burst open. Four armed men entered, weapons drawn, with Matthias Ree behind them. Silas Kong, Matthias said coldly. You're under arrest for conspiracy against the organization. Dr. Castellane, you're coming with us to answer questions about your relationship with Jae-sung Kong. Silas moved to protect Verity, but Matthias's men were faster. Within seconds, both of them were restrained, weapons pressed to their backs. Where's my father? Silas demanded, indisposed, experiencing another one of his episodes. Very convenient timing. Matthias's smile was cruel. The council has called an emergency meeting. They have questions about leadership succession, about whether Jae-sung is still fit to rule, and about whether his son has been covering up his deterioration while plotting to seize power. Verity's mind raced. This was the nightmare scenario, exposure, accusations, the organization fracturing exactly when they'd been trying to prevent it. You have no proof, Silas started. I have Dr. Castellane. I have medical records I obtained from her facility. And I have 3 months of evidence showing you've been secretly treating your father for Alzheimer's while lying to the council. Matthias gestured to his men. Take them to the compound. The council will decide their fate. The council chamber was a windowless room deep within the Kong compound, filled with 12 stone-faced men who represented the organization's senior leadership. Verity and Silas stood in the center, still restrained, while Matthias presented his evidence. For 3 months, Silas has hidden his father's mental deterioration. He's used this woman, Matthias gestured dismissively at Verity, to secretly treat Jae-sung's Alzheimer's while maintaining the fiction that our leader is competent. Murmurs rippled through the council. Verity could see the calculation in their eyes, some sympathetic to Silas, others seeing opportunity in the chaos. Where is Jae-sung? One councilman demanded. Having an episode. Confused, paranoid, unable to even recognize his own guards. Matthias's voice was triumphant. The treatment clearly failed, and now his son must answer for his deception. The treatment didn't fail, Verity said, her voice cutting through the room. It was working. His cognitive function had improved 40%. Memory consolidation was stabilizing. The episode he's having now. She looked directly at Matthias. When did it start? This morning. After what? What triggered it? Matthias hesitated, and Verity saw the tell. He had breakfast. What was in the breakfast? Verity's medical instincts were screaming. What did you give him? Standard medication. Show me. Verity's voice carried authority now, the command of a physician sensing malpractice. Show me exactly what medication Jae-sung received this morning. The council leader gestured to Matthias. Show her. Reluctantly, Matthias produced a medication list. Verity scanned it and her blood ran cold. Scopolamine. You gave him scopolamine. She looked up at the council. It's an anticholinergic drug that causes confusion, hallucinations, memory loss, especially in Alzheimer's patients. It would make him appear far more deteriorated than he actually is. That's absurd. It's treatable, reversible. Within hours of stopping the medication, his cognition would return to baseline. Verity looked at each council member. Someone drugged your leader to make him appear incompetent, to create a succession crisis. The question is, who benefits from Jae-sung and Silas both being removed from power? Every eye turned to Matthias. This is ridiculous, Matthias blustered. I would never. You would if you wanted control, Silas said quietly, pieces falling into place. The hit order on Dominic Crane. You encouraged my father's paranoia, didn't you? Fed his confusion, made him doubt loyal associates. Created chaos so you could position yourself as the stable alternative. Prove it. Gladly. Silas turned to the council. Let Dr. Castellane examine my father. Stop the scopolamine, administer the reversal agent. If she's right, he'll recover within hours. If she's wrong, he met Matthias's eyes. Then I accept whatever judgment you pass. The council leader considered this. And if Matthias is correct? If this is just you desperately trying to avoid consequences? Then I'll step down. Completely. No claim to succession, no protection from the organization. Silas's voice was steady despite the stakes. But if I'm right, if Matthias has been deliberately destabilizing my father to seize power, then he's the one who answers for treason. The room fell silent. Very well, the council leader said. Dr. Castellane, you have 6 hours to prove your theory. If Jae-sung recovers, Matthias faces judgment. If he doesn't, he looked at Silas. You both do. Verity was released and escorted to Jae-sung's quarters, where she found him exactly as Matthias had described. Confused, paranoid, barely coherent. But his pupils were dilated, his skin was flushed, his heart rate was elevated. All signs of anticholinergic toxicity, not Alzheimer's progression. She administered physostigmine, the reversal agent, and waited. 2 hours later, Jae-sung's eyes cleared. He looked around, oriented, aware. Where am I? His voice was steady, lucid. What happened? You were poisoned, Verity said. Matthias has been drugging you to make your Alzheimer's appear worse than it is. To convince the council you're incompetent. Jae-sung's expression hardened into something terrifying. Take me to the council. Now. Jae-sung walked into the council chamber with the bearing of a man who'd built an empire from nothing. The confusion, the paranoia, the deterioration, all gone, replaced by the sharp intelligence that had made him legendary. Matthias Rhee, Jae-sung said, his voice like ice. You drugged me. You fed my paranoia. You tried to destroy my son and steal my organization. Matthias's face went pale, but he rallied. The Alzheimer's is real. Dr. Castellane confirmed it. You're still dying. I am. Jae-sung agreed calmly. Early-stage Alzheimer's, being successfully treated thanks to my son's intervention and Dr. Castellane's brilliance. But you took a medical condition and weaponized it. Made me appear incompetent, dangerous, unfit to lead. He turned to the council. For 3 months, my son protected me. Not out of ambition, but out of love. He found the best doctor, secured the best treatment, and shielded me from those who would exploit my vulnerability. His eyes found Silas. I struck him for that loyalty. I'm ashamed. Father, Silas started. Let me finish. Jae-sung's voice softened fractionally. You saved my life, Silas. And you... He looked at Verity. You slapped me. At that gala, when I was cruel to that boy, you shocked me back to myself for just a moment. Enough that when my son approached me later with concerns about my behavior, I listened. I agreed to see you professionally. That slap, that moment of violent honesty, that's what started all this. Verity felt tears prick her eyes. She thought she was just defending Owen. She hadn't realized she was saving a man's life. Matthias, Jae-sung continued, you're stripped of rank and expelled from this organization. You have 24 hours to leave San Francisco. If you're found within city limits after that, the consequences will be permanent. You can't. The council should vote. I'm still in command. My cognition is intact, my treatment is working, and I have years left. Jae-sung's smile was terrible. Did you really think drugging me would be enough? I've survived worse betrayals than yours. Security escorted a protesting Matthias from the chamber. After he was gone, Jae-sung turned to the council. My son will succeed me when the time comes, not because of blood, but because he's proven himself worthy. He protected me when I was vulnerable. He found solutions instead of seizing power. That's leadership. The council members nodded one by one, accepting the succession. Afterward, in the quiet of Jae-sung's office, he sat with Silas and Verity. I owe you both my life, he said simply. Dr. Castellane, name your price. Research funding, position, anything within my power. I want Owen, the waiter from the gala, to have his tuition paid. Full ride through medical school. Verity met his eyes. And I want funding for an Alzheimer's research center. Public, accessible. For everyone who can't afford private treatment like yours. Done. What else? Nothing else. That's enough. Jae-sung studied her. You're unusual, Dr. Castellane. Most people in your position would ask for wealth, power, protection. I already have what I need. The satisfaction of saving a life. Verity smiled. Even if I had to slap you first to get your attention. For the first time since she'd met him, Jae-sung laughed. Genuine, warm, human. That slap saved more than my pride, he said. It saved my life, my son's future, and my organization's stability. All because you couldn't stand watching me be cruel to a 19-year-old waiter. He shook his head in wonder. Violence as medicine. There's poetry in that. I prefer to think of it as aggressive intervention, Verity said dryly. Call it what you want. But know this, you have the Kong family's gratitude. And our protection. Always. 1 year later, Verity stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Castellane Center for Alzheimer's Research, a gleaming facility in the heart of San Francisco, fully funded by the Kong family. The center offered cutting-edge treatment to anyone who needed it, regardless of ability to pay. Jae-sung was there, healthy and sharp, his cognitive function maintained through ongoing treatment. Beside him stood Silas, now officially named heir apparent, and Owen, the waiter whose humiliation had started everything. Now a first-year medical student with a full scholarship. Strange how things work out, Owen said, shaking Verity's hand. If you hadn't defended me that night, if I hadn't lost my temper and slapped one of the most dangerous men in California. Verity corrected with a smile. Aggressive intervention. Jae-sung interjected, joining them. That's what you called it, I believe. His Alzheimer's was still present, it always would be, but the progression had slowed to a crawl. He was himself again. Sharp, formidable, occasionally ruthless, but no longer cruel. The treatment had given him years he wouldn't have had, and more importantly, had given him back his clarity of mind. I've been thinking about that night, Jae-sung said. About the man I was becoming. The paranoia, the cruelty, the loss of control. Matthias exploited it, yes, but the disease made me vulnerable to exploitation in the first place. He looked at Verity. Your slap, it was the first consequence I'd faced in years. It shocked me enough to accept help when my son offered it. I wasn't trying to save your life, Verity admitted. I was just angry. The best interventions often come from anger. From people who refuse to accept cruelty as normal. Jae-sung's expression was thoughtful. You saved me by refusing to tolerate my worst impulses. That's a gift I can never repay. You already have. Verity gestured to the research center. This will help thousands of people. Families who don't have your resources, your access to experimental treatments. That's the real legacy. Silas approached with champagne. A toast. To Dr. Verity Castellane. The woman brave enough to slap a mafia boss and smart enough to save his life. They raised their glasses, and Verity thought about the strange path that had led her here. One moment of reckless courage, one slap delivered in anger, had rippled outward in ways she never could have predicted. She'd saved Owen from humiliation. She'd inadvertently saved Jae-sung from himself. She'd helped Silas protect his father and secure his legacy. And now, she was saving countless others through research and treatment. What are you thinking? Silas asked quietly. That consequences matter. That one action, even a violent, impulsive one, can change everything. Verity smiled. I slapped your father because I couldn't stand his cruelty. I never imagined it would lead to all this. Violence as catalyst for healing. Jae-sung mused. There's still poetry in that. There's science in it too, Verity countered. Sometimes a system needs disruption to start healing. Sometimes shock is exactly what's needed to break a destructive pattern. And sometimes, Owen added, defending a stranger leads to saving lives. I'm going into neurology because of you, Dr. Castellane. Because you showed me that one person's courage can change everything. Years later, Verity would look back on that night at the Fairmont as the moment her life pivoted. She'd been a researcher, comfortable in her lab, avoiding confrontation. Then she'd watched a powerful man humiliate a vulnerable kid, and something inside her had snapped. That slap had cost her nothing and gained her everything. A purpose beyond research, a legacy beyond papers, and the knowledge that sometimes the most impulsive actions turn out to be exactly what the world needs. Jae-sung lived another 12 years, longer than any early-stage Alzheimer's patient had a right to expect, and remained sharp and present until the very end. When he finally passed, surrounded by family, his last words to Silas were, "Thank that doctor, the one who slapped me. Thank her for making me worthy of saving." And Verity, receiving that message, understood. She hadn't just saved a life that night. She'd saved a man's soul, a family's legacy, and her own understanding of what courage truly meant. Sometimes saving someone requires gentleness, and sometimes it requires a slap. This story explored themes of courage, redemption, and how one moment of defiance can ripple into generational change. When have you stood up for someone, not knowing it would change everything? Share your story, and if this resonated, subscribe for more tales of unexpected consequences and beautiful chaos.